Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week on a very exciting week here in TCU history. I'm Rob Berline from the TCU Alumni Association. We are going to be joined in a second by Matt Purke, great TCU pitcher and all his great accolades. But first, we want to let you know, in case you haven't heard, the Horned Frog baseball team is making its sixth appearance in the College World Series this week. The first game this week will be on Friday at 1 against Oral Roberts. If you are going to make the trip to Omaha, we have plenty of pregame activities for you to get a part of. You just go to alumni.tcu.edu. So Horned Frog fans, alumni everywhere, you can be a part of all the action in Omaha. Or if you just want to watch games around the country with other Horned Frog fans, you can do that as well by checking out our game watching locations. But enough about Omaha. Today it's Wednesday, and the game teams have not played yet. So we're going to go back in history, and we are very thankful to be joined this morning by TCU great Matt Purke, who was a member of the 2010 team, the first team from TCU to go to Omaha, and newly inducted Block T Hall of Fame member. So thank you, Matt, for joining us today.
I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, before we get into your great career you had at TCU and all the things you did, you had a bit of a different decision than most high schoolers have when they're coming to college. Most decide, am I going to go to TCU or whichever school that they would make a choice? Probably wouldn't it be the right one, but they could go to TCU or another school. You decided that it would either be TCU or the Texas Rangers. So what was the decision that made, what was it about TCU that led you to go the college route?
Yeah, so it was a very, I guess, would say a interesting situation to be in. Most people, if you remember in that time, that's when the Texas Rangers went bankrupt. That's when Tom Hicks actually filed for bankruptcy and MLB had to take over for the Rangers. And so that summer was a very interesting summer for me. Had the option to play professionally, but just didn't feel like it was the right time for me or the right situation. And had a lot of love for TCU and knew a lot of the guys on the team, and I thought we could do something special. So I said, I'm going to go to TCU. I'll go play for a couple of years, and then we'll come back to pro ball. And it was definitely the right decision. So I do it again 10 times out of 10.
And when you came to TCU, you were instantly one of the best pitchers in the country, as you would think by being a first-round pick in the MLB draft this year. But you were named the 2010 Freshman of the Year by multiple publications and a first-team All-American, and you set a TCU record with 16 wins. So even though you were very highly touted coming out of high school, what was it that led you to be able to make the jump from high school to college so seamlessly?
I think I have to give a lot of credit to my team. My team played really well behind me, gave me a lot of support, but also, the leadership that I got from Coach Losnego and Coach Mazey. Once I got on campus, we sat down and we had conversations like, look, we understand where you're at, but there's still things to develop, you know what I mean? And they really pushed me to be better and not really just say, hey, go do your thing, whatever. It was, no, we're going to make you work. We're going to push you to get better. And it definitely paid off in that year and in my career for sure.
And obviously you were balancing classes when you were in high school, but it's a different level in college. So how are you able to balance that, being a student while also, being the best pitcher in the country that year?
I had a lot of hours in Miss Judy's office. She was our academic advisor, and she was a wonderful woman. So I spent a lot of time with her, stayed close to her. I knew next to my teammates, she needed to be my best friend. Because she was going to take care of me. So I spent a lot of time with her, great guidance. And then really just as a team, we took on the challenge of, hey, we're not just going to be great on the field. We're going to be great off the field. That was one thing that was always pressed upon us as a program. Like, we're not just baseball players, we're students, and we're going to show that we can achieve in both, because, there's very few, if any, players out there that can excel in the field and not excel in the classroom. It's kind of, if you're going to excel on one, you're going to excel in the other, because that's just kind of how you're built. And so that was a challenge that was put in front of us. And I said, you know what, let's do it.
And do you remember whether it would be, maybe it was in fall ball practice that year or early in spring, that, like, was there a moment that hit you that, hey, I'm doing both of these, both off the field and on the field, very well, and I can succeed as well as I thought I could?
Yeah, no. I would say for me, kind of the turning point would have been early in the spring when we came back from fall break, came into it, and we kind of had the lead up into the season there. I really felt like I kind of turned a corner as far as like how I was performing in our inner squads and like how things were going for me. And it was really kind of a situation where that those couple starts that I had leading up into the season, really I was able to put myself out there and see kind of the results that I wanted going into the year. And so it just kind of carried that momentum as we started. Obviously I started on Saturdays throughout the year in the beginning there, made a couple starts and then transitioned into Friday. So, but it was really good. I needed that time to kind of situate myself into the college game. I don't know if it would have quite gone as well if I'd have started out on Friday nights. But having those few spring starts and then having those Saturday starts really kind of propelled me into the rest of the year.
And obviously, the team had a great regular season, but it had been the case for 5 or so years. They'd get to a regional, maybe super regional, and that'd be kind of it. And then, so you get to the super regionals. It's 1-1. It's a Sunday in Austin, and for anyone that was following TCU back in 2010 and has seen the highlights, the most iconic thing, probably it's not even the game, it's the dog pile on the Longhorn. What do you remember about that Sunday in Austin?
Oh man, that was such an awesome game. We had so many great performances that day. Kyle Winkler, pitched his butt off, and he ended up going, 8+ for us. He got out of a lot of jams when we needed it, and then obviously Tyler Lockwood came in and closed the game out. But then you had great swings. I mean, Aaron Schultz, that home run that Aaron Schultz hit, honestly was just like it was a dagger against Texas. They didn't think that Chance hadn't really had a lot of failure, and so they were leaning on him heavily. And when Schultz hit that home run, it was kind of like we were all like, you know what, we got him in hand right now. But the end of that game, I was actually in the bullpen, so I was in the bullpen ready. And if the next guy that got there was a left-handed hitter on deck, and he called down and said, if this left-handed hitter walks to the plate, you're coming into the game. So, I mean, I was just blowing and going down there, letting it rip as much as I could. And so then when we got that final out, I went on a dead sprint from right field straight to the dog pile. And I will tell you, that's just that feeling when you watch teams, finally realize that they're going to Omaha. You can't recreate that feeling. It just flows out. And it was one of the, greatest celebrations, that I've been a part of, and we'll always remember it for sure.
And then all the emotions happen of that, and it's a great thing that you're going to Omaha, but you go to Omaha to actually play games. It's not just it's not just a celebration get to Omaha. And so you took the ball 7 days later on the first start of the College World Series against Florida State. Can you talk about what were your nerves? I mean, obviously, you talked about you made that turning point early in the spring. You went from the Saturday starter to the Friday starter, but it's also another jump to go to Omaha, start game one of the College World Series, and you're playing against Florida State, who's a historical powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into it, we were really focused because we had the same concept. It's like, I know it's our first time, but like we're not here just to collect our roses and then go home. We're here to play and we're here to win. And so going into that game, we had a lot of focus. I will attribute Coach Martin. He's a wonderful coach and he's done it for a long time. But in his opening press conference, when he called us the SMU Mustangs, that really kind of put a chip on my shoulder even more. I said, okay, if you don't even know who we are, then let's just show you. I will say the game definitely did not start out the way I wanted it. Went leadoff single on the first pitch, and then the next batter hit a dribbler down the third, and we threw it into right field. And so that inning started off with 1 run in and the guy on third with no outs. And so I was like, whoo, here we go. But we were able to settle in. And then in the bottom of the half, we punched him right back in the mouth. I think we threw up a 5 spot. And then from there we got him, and so it was really cool. And you could just tell from our group that the moment was never too big for us. We were always ready for the moment. And we were always ready to show people that we could be there.
And the Frogs win that game 8-1. You finished that game 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, part of 162 strikeouts you had as a freshman that year, which is just incredible. But then the weird thing about Omaha, or the different thing that people know is, when you're in the season, you play a 3-game set Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When you're in Omaha, you get a day off in between games. So how did the team as players, how do you guys manage the off days? Did you get a chance to go to the zoo? Do you get to walk around the town? How do you kind of like get away from it so it's not just pressure 24/7?
Yeah, so and our format's different now because they've condensed the tournament down. So actually, in our format, if you won your first game, you got 2 days off because because the tournament was longer. They had the championship series on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so now they have it Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we played on Friday, won the Friday afternoon game. We didn't play again until Monday night. And so those days leading up to it, we went out, we had some practices, we went and practiced a little bit on some auxiliary fields. We had some, we went to weights. And then a lot of guys, we'd go back to the stadium because Rosenblatt was one of those things where it wasn't just a ballpark, it was like a city. And so you wanted to go experience that. And, and we were fortunate that we had those days. So we were able to go up there and kind of walk around and see the sights and just take in the ballpark and the atmosphere, which was really cool. But at the same time, we knew we knew what our job was, and it wasn't we weren't there to sightsee. We were there to work, but we did have some fun on those days off.
And then you talked about your pro career. Then after your pro career, the last few years, you were actually a student assistant on the TCU program while you were finishing up your degree. So a lot of people about May 1st, just thought, this might just be an off year for us. What did you maybe see the last few years as a student assistant? Obviously, there's, new players, transfers like Richardson and Davis and Sam. But like, what did you see from the players when you were around them that maybe some from the outside didn't see about what this team has?
Yeah, I knew those guys' hearts, and I knew how much they cared and how much work they put into it, especially those juniors and seniors. I got very close to them. The junior class, we came in together, through COVID. That was their freshman year, and that was my first year back. And so, got really close to those guys: Braden Taylor, Luke Savage, Garrett Wright, River Ridings, Storm Herholzer, all those guys. So I stayed close with them. So I knew what they had inside of them, and I knew the amount of work that they put in and day out to be successful, and it just hadn't come to fruition yet. But I knew that they weren't going to stop putting themselves in good positions and just waiting for their turn to kind of have the ball roll their way. And so going into that month, yeah, it was pretty down. Coming off that, getting swept by West Virginia, then coming in the next weekend losing 2 out of 3 to Texas, you're like, man, we're teetering on the edge here. But they were able to pull back together. And honestly, you can't like describe or articulate like what it means when you have a common goal and a communal bond. And what I saw with those guys that last month, where every single one of them were willing to lay it down for the guy next to them, and that's what led them to this run that they're on. And it's a special one, and it's one you need, to get as far as you go. You need some luck as well. I will say that we got lucky in 2010, just like every other team from TC that's made it. But they had the foundation built, and they were just ready to reap the rewards for it.
And have you been able to keep in touch with any of the players or coaches the last year, and especially this last month, and kind of got an insight as to what the team is feeling this week?
Yeah. I stay close. Even though I'm not there anymore, my heart's always with TCU. It always will be. I'm always willing and ready to spread the greatness of TCU anywhere I can. So I stay close with them. Just honestly, for the coaching staff, knowing them and being around them, I knew the amount of work that they had to do to keep this team together throughout the season, because it's easy just to fold it up and go home when you're 23-20 and just say, hey, we'll get them next year. But this, the staff really stayed with them, and stayed and just kept pouring into them, and then now you're seeing it. So just being able to see that, just raw joy that came from all of them. And that's what you saw on Saturday night when they clinched it. It's just that is where everyone finally realized we got where we wanted to be, and we did it our way.
And as the team goes into its first game here in just over 48 hours, where will Matt Purke be for the College World Series events this year?
Hopefully in Omaha. Unfortunately I won't be able to make game one. Got some work that I got to take care of, but we're eyeing that Sunday game 2 action. So I'm expecting a winner's bracket game on game 2 Sunday night, and hopefully we can be in the stands there and experience, because I've never seen Charles Schwab Field, so this is probably a good time to go experience it.
Yeah, this would be a good thing. TCU made history the first time you were there. It'd be good if we could do it again. You mentioned you have work to do. So what? So I know our alumni and fans want to know, what is Matt Purke doing now that he is not doesn't put a uniform on every day?
Yeah. So I work for a local company here in Fort Worth. It's called Marsh McLennan Agency, and I do property and casualty insurance. We've got a lot of frogs. Actually, Brian Holiday and myself work together on that office, and our CEO is a big TCU grad. So we got a lot of athletes in the office, and so it's a good camaraderie. And we've all enjoyed this ride that TCU's taken us on. And what I've tried to tell people too is this may go down as collectively the best year in history for sports at TCU. And it's not just the big three. You look at what women's soccer did. You look at what women's sand volleyball did. You look at what tennis has done. You see, obviously, the rifle has always been very successful, but like as a complete and athletic program, this may go down as one of the best histories. And so I tell people, you got to cherish it and soak it up, because we don't know if we're going to, I know it's the standard now for everyone. It's the standard national championships. That's all we're going to talk about. But I'm definitely soaking it up and taking it in as much as I can.
I mean, I think everyone, the chant around the country is changing from "We want Bama" to "We want TCU."
We'll take them any day, anytime. We'll meet you right where you are.
And you say that you're obviously still plugged into the athletic department, as you gave all the great accolades there. And this spring, the athletic department kind of paid its way back to you, is that you were named an inductee into the Block T Hall of Fame this fall. Can you talk about what that moment meant to you? How did you find out, and kind of what has it hit you yet?
Yeah, so that was it was a crazy experience. I got a phone call from one of my teammates, Jason Coates, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, they haven't announced it yet, and they're going to call you later, but they thought it'd be cool if I let you know you're going into the Hall of Fame." And so I was like, "Man, that's awesome." And then I didn't hear anything for like 3 or 4 days, and so then I finally I actually called him back and go, "Dude, like, please don't tell me you're messing with me. Like, that's not like." He's like, "I'm not. I promise you." And sure enough, that day, I got a call and a message from Jill Kramer, and she was like, "We want to congratulate you on being inducted in this class." And I'll just tell you, it's a very humbling experience. You know, TCU has always meant a lot to me, and will always mean a lot to me. And so to be, put into the Hall of Fame with the best that have ever come through that school is not something that I take lightly. I'm very humbled to be in there. I'm very blessed to have it, and I look forward to going through the ceremony and being with this class. We've got a great class. Of people from all different eras of TCU, and so it's a really cool experience, and it's one where it just furthers that bond that TCU is, and that people need to realize if you come to this school, it's so special, and it will stick with you for the rest of your life.
And so, if there's, we've talked a lot about your baseball memories, but maybe what are some of your favorite memories at TCU, whether it's on or off the field? Because a lot of the bonds are formed not necessarily between the lines, but in the locker room or here at TCU in the library.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of cool experiences throughout my time at TCU. Obviously, baseball was at the forefront, just the amount of time. And some people that I think people are starting to realize it more, just the amount of time that it takes to be a student athlete and what that looks like on a dedication base, just day in and day out. I mean, it is a full-time job on top of being a student. And so a lot of moments there, but I loved our freshman year, loved the snowstorm that knocked out the first 2 weeks of school. That was a great time. We had a lot of good fun around campus doing that. So when we had the last one here, I think it was last year, this spring or whatever, and I saw all the people. I'm like, yep, we were there. We were doing the same stuff. So I had a lot of fun doing that. Just going and just being in the community. That was one thing that has always been impressed upon me, and what I try to do my part now that I'm on the other side is just how much the community loved on us, as students at TCU. And so a lot of cool events to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to, it's hard not to look back and go, you know what? I think Omaha is pretty cool.
You talked about the community. I'm not sure if you heard, TCU set a Texas record for highest baseball attendance ever in the state of Texas this last weekend, with 9,000 pretty much at both Friday and Saturday's game. So you talk about the community support, the facilities. If someone had told you in 2010 we're going to have snow right before maybe the first 2 weeks of the season, and that you would have an ability to practice inside, and also you could go play your games down I-30 at Ranger Stadium. I mean, you would have
We
after you've been like, "What? I was playing for the Rangers, but no, I guess I played my college games at the Ranger Stadium." What does it mean to have, just from when you started at 2010 to now? Just how have you seen the community and the resources change?
Oh, it's been amazing. I moved back up here in 2016. My wife and I did. She's a TCU grad as well. Met her at TCU, and so we moved back here in 2016 after they did the renovation to the weight room and the first one. Now, obviously, we're going to have another nice new shiny toy. But just the growth on that side of it and the commitment from the school to the athletic department has been phenomenal. I remember I tell the guys, especially when I was a student assistant coach, I told them I was like, I don't want to hear any complaints out of any of you about anything around here. I said, because as soon as you do, I will take you back on memory lane of what I experienced when I was here. I said, you guys get, 3 pairs of cleats, three pairs of turfs. I was like, we were fighting for socks and shoes. Okay. Like, I don't want to hear it, but it's been great. And it just shows the commitment that, Chancellor Boschini and Jeremiah have to these sports to where, if you have success, which TCU in general has success, that like we're going to pour back into it and the community is going to respond to it. And so, it's really cool. And now for them to have the opportunity as much as they've been able to do at Globe Life, I mean, it's a complete game changer. Just being able to have that early season ability to go over there and have that relationship with them is it's you can't replace it. You know what I mean? And so it's really cool to see the growth. I'm hoping there's more growth. There's definitely some areas where I know there's some sports that can use it. And I hope we're able to get it to them because they all deserve it just because of how much everyone's poured into it.
And we will wrap it up with this because I know you have to get back to your new day job in the corporate America world. But for a fan that's making his first trip to Omaha this week, what are some recommendations you would have for him?
Man, get there early. Get there early. Watch more than just TCU games. It's really cool to see and interact with other fans. I think that's the one great thing about Omaha is that it's a very big mix of you're going to see, LSU, you're going to see Tennessee, you're going to see all these other fans. And so just getting the chance of interacting with other people from around the country that you normally never would is really special. And just being in that atmosphere and just seeing it, it's a really cool environment. I know that the facilities are top notch. There's not a bad seat at Charles Schwab Field. It may be a little hot, but bring some sunscreen, bring some shade. But yeah, it's just a really cool. So I would say just spend as much time as you can out there because it's really. Sorry about that.
You're good.
It's one of those things that that you don't that you're not going to get a chance at every time, especially if you're coming to cheer on one of your schools. You don't know if you'll ever be back. We had so much success there in the middle of 2014 and 2017 where I think everyone thought like, oh, every year we're going to Omaha, and so it's been a long 6 years since then, but glad for TCU to be back, and I hope people go and experience it because you won't see any place where in my opinion you won't see any another venue where you have as much joy and passion coming out of young men that you'll see at Omaha.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're going to be in Omaha, I know our alumni and fans would love to see you. You can go. You would love to have you any alumni tailgate or just hang around with frogs around the stadium. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it, Rob. Thank you so much.
All right, and then we will watch your speech in Family Hall of Fame weekend in September. So look forward to that as well.
Yep, it's going to be a great weekend.
All right, thank you again, and go Frogs.
Go Frogs.